intellectualradio.com, its subsidiaries, or sponsors. Encouraging, educating, and empowering you into action. This is Warriors Talk with your host, Lady ReShell.
Hello. Welcome to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we move away from awareness towards action. It's Health and Wellness Monday, and our topic for today is clinical trials. What's in it for me? We are live on Intellectual Radio. We just heard from the Drive at 5 with Roman. Keep it locked right here on Intellectual Radio and allow us to feed your brain. On the last episode of Warriors Talk, I spoke with Jakima, and she talked about a God journey. She was vulnerable. She dropped some gems, and everybody left that show blessed. The show actually went like 2 hours that day. So you guys go over to YouTube and make sure you stay connected with Warriors Talk for any episodes that you may have missed. The quote of the day is, research is formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose. We are grateful for our sponsor. We have Emanuel C.O.G.I.C with Pastor Michael Richardson, who has been sponsoring Warriors Talk from day one, and I'm grateful for them. They have a special message for us.
Greetings, I am Pastor Michael Richardson.
And I am First Lady Anastasia Richardson from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We're located at 3058 West Van Buren in Chicago, Illinois. We are building upon a solid foundation.
And we're inviting you to join us every Sunday morning on Facebook Live at Emanuel C.O.G.I.C at 10:15 Central Standard Time. And you can also view our videos on our YouTube channel at Emanuel C.O.G.I.C-MR. Once again, this is Pastor Michael Richardson
and First Lady Anastasia Richardson, and we're from the Emanuel Church of God in Christ. We are building upon a solid foundation.
Here are your trending topics for today. Free COVID tests from the government will be suspended this week. This week will mark the last opportunities for Americans to order their free COVID tests from the government, as the White House has announced over the weekend that the program will be suspended. Ordering through this program will be suspended on Friday, September the 2nd, because Congress has not provided additional funding to replenish the nation's stockpile of tests. A senior Biden administration official told NBC News that the deadline could change, however, if Congress provides a surprise round of funding. If Congress provides funding, we will resume distribution of the free tests through covidtest.gov. The source said, until then, we believe reserving these remaining tests for distribution later this year would be the best course. Those are your trending topics for today. If you are tuned in on any form of social media, like the show, share the show, invite someone else in on the show so that they can get this valuable information. Hello, Lisa. Thank you for joining in. So they can get this valuable information. We're going to be talking about clinical trials and is it the right thing for you to do? So I just want to make one announcement that happened on Thursday. I went to the APS Book Awards and I wrote a book called Take Charge of Cancer, which took first place in the inspiration category. So I'm so excited about that. Officially an award-winning author. So if you don't have the book, go over to Amazon. You can either type in ReShell Matheny or you can type in Take Charge of Cancer and you can purchase your book. The book is for someone who's newly diagnosed with cancer, and it just gives you 10 tips on how to take charge of cancer to help navigate you through that journey. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. So again, our topic is clinical trials. What's in it for you? And I wanted to cover this topic because a lot of times we have a lot of miscommunication information going on when someone else doesn't want to participate or someone else have a negative experience, and then they put out this negative vibe about it. And instead of us investigating for ourselves, we just say, oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And we continue to repeat that information. So what is a clinical trial? A clinical trial is a research study that tests medicine or therapy on individual people. And the purpose of it is to answer questions about medicine that's being brought to light. So it could be medicine or it could be devices that they use for individuals. And so we all may know someone that may have participated or benefited from clinical trials, because we all have. When it came to the COVID vaccine, there had to be some people who were a part of the clinical trial so that we know that that medicine was safe. We knew what type of dosing that the doctors had to use in order to put that together. So we all are benefits of clinical trials, but have we been in a clinical trial ourselves? That's the question. And should you get in a clinical trial? So a clinical trial is important for several reasons. I just mentioned one of them, which is for vaccines. In order for us to come up, well, not me, but the researchers to come up with the vaccines. And once they do come up with the vaccines, of course, you can test them on animals, lab rats, but it's not going to do the same thing when you're testing them on a human. So we need people to be brave enough to say, hey, I'll step up and I will, go ahead and test this medicine. You could test this medicine on me, because number one, it's probably going to benefit somebody that's coming behind you and not necessarily going to benefit you. But they do have treatments that come out for, I'm just going to use cancer as an example. They have treatments to where people will get in these clinical trials, and the treatment from the clinical trials work better than the standard care that they was giving them. So sometimes you just don't know. Sometimes it may work in your favor. Sometimes it may not. Hey, Red, thank you for tuning in. We're talking about clinical trials and why it's important for us to even know about clinical trials or even participate in clinical trials. I say get the information. Hey, Tracy, get the information so that you can make an informed decision on if you should participate in clinical trials or not, and why are they important. Why are clinical trials important? They help bring drug and treatment and lifestyle changes that can be made from these clinical trials. They help bring them to the forefront faster. When you have people to test it on, volunteers that are brave enough to say, they'll do it, then it helps to bring that medicine through faster. We always talk about a cancer vaccine. How come they haven't, found a cancer vaccine? Well, how many of us are volunteer when they have these clinical trials for the cancer trials? Probably none of us, right? But we want a cure for it, but we have to volunteer for this stuff, especially African Americans, because it said that we do not participate in clinical trials, and they have the facts to prove it. So why do we need the clinical trials? We need clinical trials because we need to know the medicine that they come up with, the different devices that they come up with. We need to know if it works. We need to know what the side effects are. Again, we need to know the dosing. How much do you give this person? How much is too much before they start having side effects? And if it can work along with using cancer treatment, if it can work along with the standard care or treatment that they have to possibly enhance what you already going through. I mean, how many cancer patients would like to do something else other than the chemo, the surgery, the radiation, right? They have different things out here that we can try, but we just have to, again, get all of the information that you need so that you can be informed, make an informed decision. So does the new treatment work in people? This is something that they want to know when they're looking for volunteers for clinical trials. If the doctor wants to know how well does it work in you? Again, is it better than the other treatment? And the side effects, like what type of side effects do you have? Because they don't know. They don't know what type of side effects you're going to have from this treatment. So they can't tell you, oh, when you go into this treatment, you're going to have XYZ side effect. They don't know. Because you are part of the trial, when you tell them what side effects that you have, they're going to start writing stuff down. So then they know what to put in that commercial. You know how when you watch TV, you see this commercial and they're talking about this medicine and they make the medicine look so beautiful and they have somebody like, going through a field of flowers and, they're just gliding through the field. And then at the end of the commercial, like really fast, they got all of these side effects and you'll lose an eye, you'll lose a lung, you'll get blood clots, you'll get, and they'll go through that really, really fast. Where those came from the people who participated in the clinical trials, and they told them what their side effects was. And of course, they have to list all of that so that going into, if you want to take this new medicine that's coming out, these are the things that can happen to you. Yes. So is this new treatment safe? Is it going to work against what the doctors have already given you? You know, can your system tolerate this? Maybe it may not have an effect on you at all. And when you're going into a clinical trial, you may get, they call it the placebo. You may get that, which we know that you're not getting any type of treatment at all. But you still may have because the doctors don't like to, if you're doing like a clinical trial and it's cancer, they still want you to still do your standard treatment, right? And then you get the new medicine with the clinical trial, but you may get a placebo. It may be, you may not be getting any medicine at all. Or you may get the medicine, but you're not going to know if you have it or not. And most of the times the doctors don't know because they don't want you to be treated a certain way. They don't want the bias to seep in. So a lot of times the doctors don't even know who's getting, it'd be a third party who knows who's getting what type of treatment, which I think it works better because, I mean, I would want to know, but then again, I probably wouldn't, especially if I wasn't getting treatment at all. So what are the benefits of a clinical trial? You may get to, for you, if you're part of it, you may get to the new medicine faster than somebody else. It may be available to you quicker, right? You have a chance to play a role in your own health care. When you're part of a clinical trial, a lot of times you go see the doctor more often than someone who may not be a part of a clinical trial. They're monitoring you closely when you're part of a clinical trial. You may get things free. They'll pay for transportation. You know, sometimes they give you gift cards when you're part of a clinical trial. So there are some benefits that you can walk away with. Researchers may provide you with medical care, again, more frequently. You're coming in, and I know when you're going through cancer treatment, you don't want to keep going in to the doctor, but when you're part of a clinical trial, it gives you that reassurance to know that, hey, somebody is monitoring me closely. So if something goes wrong, then guess what? They're going to be quick to catch it. So sometimes it gives you that, that sense of security. You may be able to get in some type of support groups, or you may even be able to get more resource than the average person that's just going to the doctor because you are a part of that clinical trial. Those things may be privy to you because, you're in that testing phase. So what are some of the potential risks when you are part of a clinical trial? Again, because the doctors don't know what type of side effects are going to take place with the clinical trial, then you may have side effects. And the side effects may be uncomfortable. They may be worse off than if you were to get chemo. And you just don't know what type of side effects that you're going to have. The medicine may work against what they have you already on. So now you're part of this clinical trial and you have a right to say, okay, I don't want to be a part of this clinical trial anymore. I'm done. This is so uncomfortable. You can say that's totally up to you. You're not signing a contract. Remember, you're volunteering. This is, your own free will. So the treatment may not work, or it may work better than the standard treatment. Again, it's a trial, so you're not going to know. You're not going to know. Again, most of the time, the clinical trials are not for you. This is for people that's coming behind you that may be ill. So, you're just doing your part to make sure that we can, move new medicine forward. So again, you may not be a part of the treatment group. You may be a part of the placebo group to where you're not getting anything at all. Right. And so, and sometimes I think they do that because it's a mind thing, right? It's a mind thing. So you're thinking you're getting that. So I'm getting this medicine. So, this is why I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling good. The medicine must be working. And the whole time you're not getting anything. You're getting a placebo. So a lot of times a lot of symptoms do be in our head, and sometimes they do be real. Sometimes. So it's called a control group when you are a part of a clinical trial, which means, again, you may get the standard treatment or you may not get any treatment at all. Don't let that discourage you from being a part of the clinical trial. Again, they have to get the numbers in there. They have to be able to make sure they see what works, what doesn't work. And if sometimes your treatment can be working just as well as if they were given a new treatment. So that means they're not going to stop giving the standard treatment because we know that it does work. So the clinical trial, sometimes they inconvenience people. Sometimes you don't want to keep going to the doctor over and over again. You don't want them, poking, prodding on you, drawing blood every time you go. You may not want that. They may be doing unnecessary scans. Who knows? You're not going to know until you get all of the information about being a part of the clinical trial. And so your job is to get all of the information before you become a part of the clinical trial. Don't go into the clinical trial. Don't go into it blindly. A lot of times we don't read through stuff. When they give us stuff to sign, we don't read through that stuff. We just they say, okay, we need your signature here, 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 and here. And it'd be a lot of words on the paper. You'd be like, okay, we just sign it. We don't take time to read it to really see, I could be signing my life away here. No, we just take some time and say, hey, can I take this home? Can I take this home and read it over versus just making a rash decision and signing it right there. Again, because you're volunteering, so you don't have to rush to sign up for it. You can take your time. How are clinical trials safe, and how are participants, how are they protected when you're going through clinical trials? Especially your information being protected and you being protected because you're volunteering for this event, right? So how do you know if everything is being protected? Well, federal rules help to ensure that clinical research is done on a safe and ethical manner. So the government has its hands in it so that, they get money. So they're going to make sure that, okay, you have to follow these rules. You have to pay this fee in order to do this clinical trial. And this is what you need. This is what you need to do. These are the boxes that you need to check. So researchers have this strict regimen that they have to go through in order to make sure participants are safe and that the medicine that they're using, that it works. That's the main thing they want to know, is that it's safe and that it works. One thing I want to talk about is informed consent. The informed consent process is what I was talking about when, they're telling you about the clinical trial and you're deciding if you want to be a part of the clinical trial and making sure you get all of the information before you decide to be a part of the clinical trial. Make sure you know what's happening. Again, it's not a contract, right? This is something that if you decide to walk away at any time, that you can. You could walk away and not have to participate. If it gets uncomfortable for you at any point in time during the process, you can leave. You can say, I want to withdraw my consent to be a part of this. So when you're thinking about informed consent, what I go back to is Henrietta Lacks. If you know the story about Henrietta Lacks and her HeLa cells and how they took her cells without her permission, and they was using her cells in a lab to, do a lot of different tests, and a lot of different vaccines came from her cells, but she did not give informed consent. The doctor just took it. And at that time, because at that time, it was at a time where African Americans really, we wasn't really thought of as, having rights and being important. So they felt like they could take her cells and do whatever they wanted to do with them. So that's really where the informed consent came from, is with Henrietta Lacks and her HeLa cells, because they were taken without her consent. And her family still today, right, what they're doing right now is they're able to sit on the board right now to decide who gets to get the cells when they want to do research on them. But it took them a long time to even do that. So if you are deciding to participate in a clinical trial, just make sure, again, all the information is being given to you. You know what's going on. So here are some questions that you can ask when you are thinking about being a part of a clinical trial, or ask them, what's the purpose of the trial? Why are we doing this trial? What do you need? What are you trying to accomplish with this trial? And is this study right for you? A lot of times doctors are the ones who will, refer a patient to a clinical trial. That's where the majority of them come from, is from your doctor. When a doctor feels like, oh, you would be a great candidate for this, and it may be something that's being ran right there at their clinic, so they're going to push it, right? But a lot of times it comes from the doctor. Sometimes, people look for clinical trials on their own when they hit a dead end when it comes to treatment. So they may start looking up stuff on their own. You can go to the website, clinicaltrials.gov, and you can look for clinical trials. You can go to Dr. Susan Research, drsusanloveresearch.org, and you can look for clinical trials. And let me just say, all clinical trials are not about them drawing blood, them doing any type of procedure on you. Some of them are, I mentioned earlier, about lifestyle changes. Some of them are just surveys asking you questions about, a time when you had that disease. What was you going through? What was your eating habits like? Were you exercising? Like, a lot of them are just asking you questions. So you can be selective. I know with Dr. Susan Love, you can be selective and you could just do the survey ones if you don't want to, do the ones that are physical. Because a lot of times people are nervous about the ones that are physical because you don't know what's going to happen. So that's when you start asking all of the questions. What does the test and the treatment involve? Ask the question, because especially if they're going to be performing stuff on you and you don't know what's going on, they already have a plan. They already wrote it down. They know what it is they're looking for. So you can ask questions. Red said it's a big decision. I think people want a better feel of being safe, even if they know it's a trial. But I understand how important it is to be tested. That is, and you're so right. It's a big decision. And I would say, when you're thinking about the decision, don't think about it as it being some of the clinical trials are for individuals who are going through treatment right now. And again, their doctors refer them there because it's a better they feel like they will have a better outcome. And yes, you want to be safe. And that's the reason why you're going to make sure that you get all of that information as to what's going on with the trial. How's it going to benefit me? What are the risks? What are the inconveniences of the trial? What information have you gotten so far with the trial? And then you ask, like, a lot of times they don't pay when you're doing a clinical trial. Sometimes they do, depending, they may pay for transportation because they know they have to give people an incentive for being a part of clinical trials, because people are like, what's in it for me? So if you feel like, if you need some extra money, then go on the website and see what clinical trials are paying. And, you can make some money just by giving them information. Again, it's not always something physical that they're doing to you. So I think people think, when they think clinical trials, they're thinking, you think about in 1939, the Tuskegee, experiment, and how bad they treated all of those men, not treating them and not telling them what really was going on. So, when you think about the medical system, you think about how Black people, have a mistrust for the medical system, how we really don't believe, we don't trust, we don't want to go to the doctor because we don't trust. And although that situation has been, some families have gotten money because they sued, but you can't bring back the person that died. You can't bring back the quality of their life that was taken from them because, information wasn't given to them, because they was misled, they was manipulated. Like, when you hear about things like that, even though it happened in 1939, but that clinical trial went on for years. It wasn't a couple of years. A clinical trial is not an overnight process. So that trial went on for years. They was following those men, and some of them not even treating these men for years. I felt like, thinking about it, it was like they was torturing them for years. So yeah, you're right. It is a big decision. People want to be safe. Some people may want to help. They're hesitant. And that's why I'm saying, get the information. There's so much information. There's so much information out here on the internet. There's so much misleading information out here on the internet. If you want to get the information that's verifiable, then you go to the information normally that has the .gov at the end, or or a lot of times the .org at the end. Those type of information, they've done the research, and they have the results to back it up. So I would say, go to those websites first to get the information. And better yet, talk to your doctor and say, hey, I would like to participate in a clinical trial. Do you have any that you can recommend? Do you have any that you think would be beneficial to me? And trust me, they may have a friend that's doing a clinical trial, that they can refer you to. They're going to push it. You just have to, say that you're interested in it, because a lot of times When you go into the doctor, you in and out. 15 minutes, you're in and out. They're not even trying to push that on us. So sometimes we have to be proactive and we have to ask ourselves. And so thinking about the diversity when it comes to clinical trials, I mentioned earlier about how African Americans don't participate in clinical trials, how a lot of times when they're making this medicine, creating these medicine and these medical devices, that the majority of it is done on Caucasian people. It's not done on African American people because we don't go and participate in clinical trials. And a lot of times it's probably because nobody's asking us to, right? Nobody's asking us to participate. So I'm not going to volunteer if nobody's asking me. So it says of clinical trials, according to statistic and research, of clinical trials leading to the FDA approval, and this is for cancer drugs, it says between 2008 and 2018, of which was reported 63% provided data for at least one racial group. So with whites representing in clinical trials, it was 76.3. Asians, it was 18.3. Blacks, it was 3.1. Hispanics, it was 6.1 of the clinical trial participants. That's really sad. It really is, because I even think about breast cancer and how when it comes to the incident rate, Black and white women are being diagnosed at around the same rate, right? But African American women are dying at a 41% higher rate than Caucasian women. Why? When we're being diagnosed, the incidents are around the same. Why are African American women dying at almost 50% more than the white women? Because when they are creating these medicines in these laboratories, when they're doing these clinical trials, Black people, the majority of us, are not present. They're not present. Lisa says, I've been asked to participate and have declined the offer due to trust issues. See? And it's real. You're just being real, because we don't trust. And I don't know what it is that could take place that will eliminate that trust or decrease us feeling that way. It's got to be something that we can do. Because when you feel like, oh, why are they asking me that? I'm not about to be a guinea pig. Because at that point you feel like I'm about to be a guinea pig. You know, who knows what they're going to be putting inside of me. And then some people, I heard a story about a lady that had AIDS and she was doing so bad and the doctor referred her to a clinical trial. And the clinical trial just turned her situation around. Well, when the clinical trial was over and they was giving her transportation, everything, when it was over with, when the trial is over with, okay, you're done. They're not giving you no more medicine. They're not giving you that transportation. And then after that, she started getting worse. And they don't tell you like, okay, they need to prepare you for, okay, and that should come with that informed consent. When this trial is over with, these are the things that we're going to do. These are the things that we're not going to do. And so often you don't even hear about the trial after you've been a part of it. You don't even hear, they don't send you no letter in the mail. They don't send you anything telling you what happened with the trial. A lot of times you don't hear. You don't hear. Because a lot of times they don't publish the negative results about stuff. They're going to highlight everything positive about it so that they can get it approved, they can get it out there, and people can start taking it, buying it, and they can start making money. So that trust issue it's a big one. It's at the top. And I don't know if maybe you have to have that relationship with your actual doctor and trust your doctor if they refer you and you be like, okay, I trust my doctor. I know they're not gonna, set me up to fail. So let me see what this clinical trial is all about. And I mean, it's got to be something that at some point that we could do. It has to be more people. We want to see people that look like us, right? We want to see people that look like us when we go to the doctor. So we need more Black doctors. We need more Black nurses. We need people that look like us, because we tend to trust people for some reason that look like us. So we have to push for that, push the kids to be doctors, push them to be nurses. We feel comfortable. When I remember just going through a cancer diagnosis, I was looking for people that look like me. So I can ask them, what happened when you went through your treatment? What happened? I was looking for people that looked like me. I didn't look for anybody outside my race. I wanted to know how did you make it through? That's what I wanted to know. So I think it's something that maybe it's an individual thing, Tracy, when it comes to Lisa, when it comes to the trust, maybe it's something individual and maybe it's not something as a whole, because I think individually people has to heal from it. My Leah said, we don't have enough awareness about clinical trials in the community with people of color. Thanks for sharing this information. And that's so true. And that's the reason why I wanted to talk about it, is because we need it. I mean, we need the clinical trials because we need for them to be creating medicines and testing it on us so it could be effective for us. When we go through breast cancer treatment, they're giving us everything. They're giving us the chemo, the radiation, the surgery, everything, when they really don't have to, because if we was in the room when they was doing the clinical trials, then their medicine would be working for us. We would be dying at a 41% rate than a Caucasian woman. So we need to get the information out here again so that we can dispel some of the myths out here about clinical trials. Again, they're not all about them drawing blood or doing some type of procedure on you. Some of them are just surveys about your experience. Some of them pay. Some of them give gift cards. Some of them don't. Sometimes it's just an individual who wants to, out of the goodness of their heart, wants to volunteer to help push, research further so that we can get we can get different medicines and different treatments. Lisa says, I only trust my doctor to a certain extent. I don't like going to see them, so I'm doubtful about volunteering. And you just being honest. Lisa. Yeah, and that's true. And that's probably because we only in there like 15 minutes. We don't get to really sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation with our doctor, about things. So yeah, we're only going to be like, okay, what's in it for you, doctor? Since you pushing this, what's in it for you? Because like a lot of times they push certain medicines because they get a kickback on it. Like, okay, what's in this clinical trial for you? So yeah, we're going to have doubts about it. We're going to be iffy and like, okay, why? What are they trying to do? Nobody wants to be a guinea pig. I know I don't. And Lisa said, exactly. Nobody wants to be a guinea pig. So when it comes to clinical trials, and I was talking about asking the questions, how long is this trial is going to be? There are 4 different phases when it comes to a clinical trial. That first phase is probably going to last between 1 year with like maybe 20 to 100 participants. And then that second one, you'll have up to 200 participants. It could last up to 2 years. And I was saying that the trials is not like a quick process. And so many people was like, well, how did they find, the vaccine for COVID really fast? They was already working on that stuff already. They had already been working on that stuff. And I mentioned the HeLa cells. Those HeLa cells were a part of finding that vaccine for COVID. They're not in these research labs for nothing. So, they're trying to find the cure. They was just able to do it for COVID. They was able to do it right away. And when you think about COVID, you think about cancer, like where's the money at? Where's the money? The money is in cancer. The money is not in COVID. It's not in COVID. And although Dr. Fauci said COVID is going to be around for a long time, we'll be dealing with it for a while. But, all we doing is we go get our shots. It's coming out of our insurance money. How much is the vaccine? It is not the same amount as you going to get chemo. So yeah, the money is in cancer. It's not in COVID. So just know that when you're going through the clinical trial, that there's different phases that you go through. So if you want to know the outcome of the trial, you have to ask them, how long is this trial going to be? Where can I find the information? When y'all get ready to conclude the trial, how do I get the information about what happened? Did anything come of this trial? Because you want to know if your participation had any effect on, the trial. So, it doesn't hurt to ask the questions. I would say ask the questions. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to ask. Okay, you guys, I want to highlight my sponsor. Of course, I have to highlight my sponsor, which is Allstate with Paula Kelly. And she is located at 327 East Glenwood Lansing Road in Glenwood, Illinois. And she could be reached at 708-758-3300. She's been with Warriors Talk since the beginning. I mentioned she's a cancer survivor, and she just supports anything that Warriors Talk do. You can contact her for home, auto, life insurance as well. If you want a insurance agency with integrity, she is your person. We are live on Intellectual Radio. This is Lady ReShell with Warriors Talk, author, founder of Warriors Talk. We're talking about clinical trials, and is it the right thing for you? What's in it for you? Why do they want you to do or participate in clinical trials? Why? Well, we just discussed that it may be for you. It may not be for you. It may be for someone that's coming behind you, right? Someone else that may be diagnosed with something. It may not be for you per se, but there are some clinical trials right now that people are in that may be at the end of exhausted all of their treatment regimens. And then here's this clinical trial that's working wonders for them. So many medicines have came from, I'm going to say just about all of them. They have to go through you have to test them on people. You just can't throw it out on the market. You can't just throw it out on the market. So somebody has to go through, somebody has to be, I'm just going to say it, somebody has to be the guinea pig. Somebody has to be the volunteers. Somebody has to do it so that other people can benefit from it because somebody did it for you. So let's talk about, I want to make sure I got all of the benefits. You may be part of the new treatment. I talked about that. You get the medicine before everybody else. You play an active role in your own health. You can provide research. The researchers will provide you with medical care. Again, they'll give you the gift cards. They'll give you bus fare. You'll have regular checkups coming in. You'll have that sense of security knowing that, okay, if anything goes wrong with me, they're going to find out right away, right? And again, participants, you may not get any money for it, but you have a sense of, I don't even want to say pride, but, you have this sense knowing that you participated into something that's really going to make history. It's really going to make history. We talked about the safety part of it, how, the federal government is making sure that with the clinical trials that they have a regimen that they go through before they just put you through the clinical trial and before they put this medicine out for people. They want to make sure it's safe. They want to make sure that it works. So they're not just going to put anything out there for somebody to get sued. And we talked about African Americans, how we only participate 3.1%. You got Caucasians participating at 76%. What is it that needs to happen for us to heal, mend that trust issue that we have with the medical system? Can it be fixed? If so, how? How can they meet us halfway to where we can feel some sort of comfort when we go to the doctor, when they're we expected them to have our best interests at heart, when they're prescribing us with these different medicines, when they're asking us to be a part of these clinical trials? Like, how can we come together so that we won't feel that way? We should be able to trust these people. We should be able to. So let's talk about some facts. I love my facts. I love my myths when it comes to anything that's dealing with cancer. So let's talk about some facts and myths that are surrounding clinical trials. And one of them is you have to give up your usual treatment to join a clinical trial. And if you was listening to me, you already know the answer to this one. And it says some researchers want patients to actually stay in their current medical treatment with the hopes that with the combined treatment, it will yield the best results for that person. So they don't want you, if you have the standard care of treatment, which is normally the chemotherapy and the radiation, if you have that, they don't want you to stop those things. They want you to keep doing it on top of whatever new medicine that they're trying to test. So that one is false. You don't have to. You can do both. All right, so the next one is children are not allowed to participate in clinical trials. Is that a myth or is it a fact? So it says children can take part in clinical trials with the permission of their legal guardian. So you have to make sure as the parent, you are explaining everything to their child, what's happening, why they're participating, what's going to, what to expect. Just don't throw your child in it and get, they being used as a guinea pig. So, make sure that you feel like this trial is really going to benefit them, especially when it's a child, because they can't give their own consent. So I would say be selective about the trials that you would want to put your child in. And again, it's going to benefit another child coming behind that child. A fact or myth, you can only participate in a clinical trial at a medical center where you're currently being treated. Is that a fact or a myth? So I already talked about the doctors are the main people that refer individuals to clinical trials, right? Because it may be a clinical trial going on right there at that center, or they may have someone they know that's working on a clinical trial. So they're probably going to be the first one to say, hey, you should be a part of this clinical trial. It'll really benefit you. You can also go on the website, clinicaltrials.gov, and you can look up clinical trials. You could type in what type of clinical trial you're looking for. So many of them are going to come up. You can also go to Dr. Susan Love Research.org. So many are going to come up. And again, all the trials are not dealing with procedures, drawing your blood. Some of them are, again, just surveys asking about lifestyle changes, lifestyle history, so they can see how you can, if you change your lifestyle, how does that affect? So they can put that information out there and say, hey, we did a clinical trial on if you, like they give us exercise 150 minutes a week, or 5 days a week for 30 minutes, that it'll yield this result. Like somebody had to go through that clinical trial in order for them to know that 150 hours would be beneficial to your health. So the next fact or myth is you have to be terminally ill to participate in a clinical trial. Is that a fact or is that a myth? And I would say it's a myth because some clinical trials, you probably do have to be terminally ill because they're trying to get to some endpoint that they're trying to get to, but then the majority of them are not. You don't have to be terminally ill to be a part of that clinical trial. A lot of them want people that are healthy. They want to use this medicine on people that are healthy, because if you're sick, you may drop out of the clinical trial. A lot of people may drop. If majority of the people are sick, then you will have a lot of people dropping out. You may have people passing away, and that's going to throw off the whole trial. They may have to terminate it, or they may have to start all over again. So they want people that are healthy. And here are the websites for the clinicaltrials.gov that you can go to and look up clinical trials. You can go to the Dr. Susan Love Research and you can look up clinical trials. You can also go to www.fda.gov and look for clinical trials as well if you're interested. And again, without clinical trials, we wouldn't have any vaccines, treatment for like cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and other diseases that are out there right now. Somebody had to go through the clinical trial to test the medicines and know that it was safe for us to use on other people. So I encourage you to get the information and make your own decision about if you want to participate in a clinical trial or not. It may not be for everybody, right? It may not be for everybody. I'm sharing the information. Have I participated in a clinical trial? No, I haven't. Am I interested in participating? Yes, I am, because I know the benefits of the clinical trial is going to help individuals that's going to come behind me. So I have children that's coming behind me. I have grandkids that's coming behind me, and this information can benefit them as well. So let me highlight, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm going to highlight my closing sponsor, which is Gloria Dotson with Mary Kay, and she is catering to your beauty needs from head to toe. You can contact her at 773-749-6680 for all of your beauty needs. Make sure you tell her that Warriors Talk sent you so that you can get your beauty needs taken care of. I want to make sure I highlight my book again, which is Take Charge of Cancer, you guys. Again, it took first place in the inspiration category over at APS Book Awards. I was so excited, you guys, just for my book to be recognized. Again, this book is for anyone who is newly diagnosed with cancer and they're looking for a way to navigate through this journey. It gives you 10 tips on how to take charge of cancer. All right, you guys, I'll leave you with these words of wisdom. Again, join me next Monday, 6 p.m. right here on Intellectual Radio. Your words of wisdom are: no research without action, no action without research. As always, thank you for tuning in to Warriors Talk with author and founder Lady ReShell, where we are changing lives one warrior at a time.
Thank you for listening to this week's edition of Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell. To find out more about Warriors Talk, follow at Warriors Talk, the number 1, on all social media outlets, and Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell on YouTube. Please join us next week and every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on intellectualradio.com for Warriors Talk with Lady ReShell, where we encourage, educate, and empower you